Yes, thank you very much. It has been a very nice conference, very well organized from especially the local organization committee. And it's so nice to see all these faces again after the pandemic and everything. But of course, there are people who would like to come, but they couldn't because they have passed away since the last meeting. And there used to be a tradition that we honor them. And so we have collected names and people here. So these are the people. Phil Brigitzer, Hans Doll, Gerhard Fischbeck, Andres Kleinhofs, Udda Lundqvist, Patrick Schweitzer, Michele Stanka, Steve Ulrich, Dieter von Wettstein, Shushu Yasuda, and there of course can be more which you think have been important for the Bali community or for something which is related to this, and we don't want to have anyone forgotten. So there was someone not on the list here, so please speak up. They should definitely be included. I don't see any waving hands, so then I suggest that we raise and take a moment of silence. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. So we just now see how we all, to use the phrase, stand on the shoulders of giants. Okay, firstly, big thanks to Joris for putting these together and for putting together the entire program for that matter. So, yeah, so I mean, one of the characteristics of this meeting was that we started a long time ago, but in fact, the real organizational work was only done over a very short period of time, less than a year. So there was a real scramble. Once we were in a holding pattern for two potential meeting slots, 2 years in a row, and then finally the go for launch was given when we thought we might emerge from the pandemic in time to actually organize a meeting and get people here. So in the end, we had just 9 months to pull together. And then in that 9 months, the program was put together, and there were, as you saw from the program, in fact, 10 themes, 10 themes through it. We attracted 128 abstracts, 46 oral presentations, and over 80 posters, which then contributed into the flash and dash presentations, which I think went really well. It was very stimulating to have young people up here and keeping their time better than the more elderly members of the presenters. So we had altogether 26 countries represented, and of course the 4 online countries, Japan, China, South Africa, and India together. China probably alone would have doubled the number of attendees here if they had been able to travel. So we were well represented nationally, but we would have had very many more people here. And basically, all the barley producing continents, 6 continents were represented. And as Yuris will attest, and the other members of the local committee will attest to, and the IOC will attest, there were an enormous amount of communications about this, and hopefully no one will trove through the emails. But also for the field days, there was some work to put that together. So now there are altogether 11 contributors, and almost 800 packets of seeds were received for the purpose of being sown. And I hope we'll have fun looking at the results tomorrow. So all this was done together with RA team, 7 people altogether on their team. And I give them a really big thanks for pulling this off and putting together such a excellent program. So they also managed to attract 37 sponsors and supporters, and our thanks for getting the sponsors, but especially a big thanks for the sponsors and their representatives who are here in the audience for helping to make this possible financially and to sustain this meeting. So, and especially thanks to everyone who's here, everyone who came, everyone who participated and contributed to making this one of the best meetings anywhere in terms of atmosphere, science, and collaborative spirit.
And we have just one thing left. And the main statistic is here.
All right, well, I'm just going to say a little bit about the International Organizing Committee. So the local committee is the committee that really does all the work. And so you might be wondering what this International Committee is all about. And so one of the things that the committee has worked on over the past few weeks is actually defining what those responsibilities are, because I couldn't find any record of it anywhere. And it had been long enough since the last symposium that I'm sure I forgot some things. So these are the current members of the committee. The general responsibility of the committee is to make sure that this symposium happens on a regular basis. And so that's the primary responsibility. But it includes supporting the local organizing committee, often helping, go through abstracts, chair sessions in the actual meeting itself, moderate sessions. In the past, the committee has been involved in helping to do some fundraising. And I think that's something that we can probably work harder on in terms of trying to get funds to provide more access to folks, either students or younger researchers that maybe don't have the resources to come to a meeting like this. So I think that's an important responsibility. Communication, we try to have membership in the committee that spans, worldwide in terms of different regions. Communication is a challenge these days. Email lists change from year to year to year, and it's been 6 years since the last time, so keeping up with that. So each of the members of the committee has contacts in the region of their country and ways to communicate and get the word out about when the next symposium is and the information that you need to attend. The committee also manages residual funds from the symposium. So if there are funds left over, they're managed centrally and they're made available to the local organizing committee for the next symposium, because a lot of times you need to pay upfront for reserving spaces and things like that. So that fund is available to take care of those kinds of things. And then to some extent, the committee has been, this has changed quite a bit over the years, has been charged with some sort of way of recording this event. And in past symposia, that's been through publishing of proceedings. That has sort of faded over the years. I think there's an opportunity to publish papers for this symposium. The last one that was in the US, what we actually ended up doing was just publishing the abstracts. So that is something that we can do very easily. We can put together a single PDF or split it into two, or we have the program and all of the abstracts for the meeting together in a PDF. And then Grain Genes has been storing those in a place that people can get access to. So it's a way of recording this event. And so I think we'll continue to do that for this event, but then it will be up to the international and the local committee as to whether they want to do something beyond that to try to record any of the activities in the symposium. And then probably the most important thing is the committee is involved in selecting the next venue for the symposium. And that is what we're going to do in just a minute. But I will pause there and just see if there are any questions or comments in general about the IOC. The other thing that we decided that we would do with the IOC is the informal policy is that people have just sort of stayed on the committee. And I decided that what we're going to do now is you have to actively opt back in if you want to stay on. And I also want to invite anybody who is interested in serving on the committee to contact me if you're interested, because there is always a little bit of turnover every time around. There'll probably be some turnover this time. So if this sounds like something that you would be interested in, then you should feel free to contact me and let me know, and we'll find a place. There's no hard and set rules about how many committee members there are. We set a minimum of 8, but that number has varied quite a bit over the years. But any questions or comments about the IOC? Yes.
Just in regard to the number of members of this international organizing committee, for me, Africa is missing. So we have ICADA and we have Ethiopia, where barley is quite important. So we should invite somebody from Africa.
If anybody has suggestions, I think I've gotten 1 or 2 suggestions already. Let me know, and
Yeah. Miguel is around, so
Yes.
that would be a good option.
someone else already suggested, so we will look into that.
Thanks, Kevin. It's a big responsibility, but we decide to propose Argentina as the next possibility to organize the next conference after a huge number of meetings. And our proposal is 2 potential venues, 2 different locations in the south, but I show you some numbers. This is some numbers of Argentina. In the last year, we exported $75,000 million, and the contribution of agricultural production is very high because 70% of the total exportation of Argentina come from the agriculture and associated product related with the agricultural system. And this is an equivalent of $55,000 million. And wheat and barley represent 5% of the total exportation of my country. And as mentioned in my presentation, the last date, the Argentina represents the 6th world exporter in terms of malt. We produce mostly malt in barley, but also we produce malt for feeding, but in a less proportion. And normally, this is some of the private and national companies and organisms that are represented or are involved in the barley production. The InBev, AB InBev, Port Malt, Book, which is a national breeder, ACA, which is another cooperative of national, in which involve national breeders producing wheat and barley, Cargill, Quilmes, and some craft beers like Maltear. And this is our National Institute of Agriculture and Technology, INTA. INTA conducts our national barley network which include more than 20 different barley genotypes every year and organize field demonstration in 21 environments every year. And they produce this information for all the people that are involved in barley. We produce, as I mentioned in my presentation, a little bit more than 1 million of hectares of barley. We reach 1.5 million of hectares in the total. And we have 6 million of hectares of wheat in Argentina. And again, I repeat some numbers. This is our malting capacity, 875,000 tons. 70% of that production we export, mostly to countries around our region. And as I mentioned, our barley production is concentrated in the southeast and in the south of the province. And this is the reason why we propose 2 potential venues, which are Mar del Plata and Bahía Blanca, because both sites are into the barley region production. The visitor will arrive to Buenos Aires. This is a picture of the city of Buenos Aires. 3 million of people live there. And this is another picture of our city. This is Puerto Madero, one of the youngest neighborhoods in the city. The visitors can learn tango, visit some historical places around Buenos Aires. And this is one of the proposal venues. Mar del Plata is probably the most popular holiday location for holidays for the people that live in Buenos Aires and around of Buenos Aires. Mar del Plata, the attraction, this is obviously, you can see, this is the casino there, and there are, if you want to play some money and lots of money, you can go there. But there are a lot of beaches around Mar del Plata. This is different view of the city. And around Mar del Plata, there are many fields where barley is one of the most important crops around this city. The other probably location is Bahía Blanca. Bahía Blanca is in the south of the province, little bit around 200 or 300 kilometers from Mar del Plata and 600 kilometers from Buenos Aires. Mar del Plata is 400 kilometers away from Buenos Aires. And this is a view of the Bahía Blanca city. And Bahía Blanca has one of the most important ports for exportation grains in Argentina, and most of our production goes through different countries through the port of Bahía Blanca. Has another attractions in relation or around of the city, and is very important the winter crop production around the Bahía Blanca. It is the city where is the closest city respect to the malting houses in that area. But if you visit Argentina, you can visit the north. This is the Iguazu Falls that limiting with Brazil. Both views are very beautiful. I like too much from the Argentina view, respect to Euclides, sorry. But this is a view of the Iguazu Falls. And you can make some excursion to different parts of the Iguazu with different tracks over the falls and down the falls. You can go by walk or by boats, and you can very close to the Iguazu Falls has the Jesuit ruins. Jesuit spent a lot of time there in Argentina, and remains some ruins very close to the falls. And if you go to the Patagonia, you can see a lot of glaciers. This is one of the most famous, the Perito Moreno Glacier. It's in the Patagonia, very nice place to visit. And there are some view of the Patagonia there. You can, if you want to, if you like to climb mountains, you can go this spot also. And in the Patagonia, you can go to the beach and see the whales and the penguins. This is one of the biggest penguin colony in the world. And there are a sanctuary there for the whales in the same site. You can make a couple of kilometers and see all these attractions there. And again, I talk after that presentation, I talk with different potential supports, because in my mind, the main problem is the economic problem, is the money. And I talk with many of these companies to be sure that probably they will give some support in the future. And the most important point is that even when the venue, I presented Argentina as a venue, if Argentina is selected for the next conference, our idea is make a regional conference, including Brazil, Uruguay, Chile, and Argentina. In fact, I talked with different researchers and companies of those countries to be sure that they may support to the next conference. I can see
How's the flight connection from Buenos Aires to?
In the case of Mar del Plata, we have 2 flights per day from Buenos Aires. Yeah, in the case of Bahia, there are less flights at the moment because 5 months ago there was 1 flight per day, but now we have 1 flight per week. But I hope that the flight connection will improve in the next year. But it's more easy to go to Mar del Plata than Bahia Blanca. Yes, the point is that in Bahia there are the attraction, even independent of the natural, we have not a lot of story in Argentina, but it's relatively young country, but we have very nice landscapes. But in Bahia has the benefit that it has the visiting to the malting houses, if you want, and to go to the port, which is very big, and obviously a field day there in both, in Mar del Plata and in Bahia.
Repeat the question.
The breeding stations. The breeders are concentrated in the south, close to Mar del Plata and Bahia, are distributed. The companies has their own fields there in the south. This is the reason that I propose the both venue. And obviously the head office are in Buenos Aires, probably, but the field are in general in the southeast, and there are some in the north. Burman, for example, has the malting houses in Rosario, which is in the north, and has another in the south. But in general, AB&B has the fields there in the south, and Book is in the south, and the Cargill is in the south. Most are in the south. Yeah.
So I wasn't going to say a few things, but just the importance of barley to Scotland. Let me just give you a couple of statistics. We don't really export barley or malt. What we export is something called whiskey and beer. It's worth about 5 billion to the Scottish economy. It's the UK's largest food and drink export. It accounts for over 25% of our food and drink exports. It's our biggest crop. We've recently had investment of around $100 million to build a research centre, a centre of excellence which focuses specifically on barley. And it will open at the beginning of 2024. So just in time, I think, for the next International Barley Genetics Symposium. And I think it would be great for you to see this facility and great for us to host you. So let me just show you this video.
As we sit here in the historic city of Riga, having heard some fabulous stories about the scientific breakthroughs being made in our favourite crop, for the coming few moments, we want to turn your attention to the next and the 14th International Barley Genetics Symposium. We want to take this opportunity to convince you that Dundee, Scotland's City of Discovery, would be both a fitting and a timely venue.
City of Discovery is an unusual title, but it fits Dundee in many ways. The term is derived from the Royal Research Ship Discovery that was built in Dundee and was captained by Sir Robert Falcon Scott on his first journey to the Antarctic. While Scott's explorations are now confined to history, discovery is a theme that continues to run through the city.
The UK's top-ranked School of Life Sciences, celebrated colleges for art and design, and the James Hutton Institute continue to push the boundaries in both art and science. Dundee is the UK's first and only UNESCO City of Design, a title awarded for its diverse contributions to society that include pioneering research to popular video games. It's home to Scotland's first design museum, the Victoria and Albert Dundee, conveniently located alongside Scott's Discovery.
A coastal city on the estuary of the River Tay, Dundee is easy to access from all major Scottish international airports. If you want to get out of the city, within minutes you can find yourself in stunning Scottish countryside, and whether you prefer the lore and mountains of the Cairngorm National Park, royal castle at Glamis and Balmoral, fishing, or championship golf, everything is within reach.
But most importantly, Dundee is home to the James Hutton Institute and the International Barley Hub. The IBH is a multi-million-pound initiative to build a barley research platform that combines biological discovery with translation into economic, environmental and commercial impacts. Its new build state-of-the-art research complex is supported by a broad range of stakeholders from along the supply chain. It aims to maintain and support the demand for sustainable supply of high-quality premium barley grain used in Scotland's key food and drink sectors, and is built on the scientific excellence of the James Hutton Institute and the University of Dundee.
In September this year, we launched an ambitious postgraduate training network called Baritone, which will support at least 30 new PhD students studying different aspects of sustainable barley production. All students are co-funded by a commercial partner with the aim of ensuring succession within the industry by individuals with an interest in securing the future of the barley supply chain.
If our proposal to host the 14th International Barley Genetics Symposium is supported, the meeting itself will be held at the University of Dundee in the centre of the city, close to abundant accommodation, cafes, pubs, shops and restaurants. The venue has excellent facilities, and conference organisation will benefit from close association with the Dundee and Angus Conference Bureau. There will be opportunities to visit the IBH and the barley field trials at the JHI.
Of course, a visit to Scotland wouldn't be complete without trying some typical Scottish produce, music and ceilidh, all of which will be offered at our conference dinner. An optional tour to local sites of interest or a walk in the stunning Scottish countryside will also be offered to conclude the meeting.
So we look forward to welcoming you to beautiful Scotland, the home of lochs and castles, bagpipes and whisky, for the 14th International Barley Genetics Symposium in 2024.
Dundee is the sunniest city in Scotland, which is great for ripening up all the better barley we grow in this area, and it's then malted and distilled into delicious single malt whisky.
Okay, so this is the building site at the moment, but in the next couple of months the International Barley Hub Field Centre will be open. And this will be followed by the opening of the International Barley Hub main building in 2023.
And we are very excited to welcome you at the James Hutton Institute to visit this new building where we will work on the barley of the future.
So what's the risk that the building is finished in 2014? 2020.
You want the odds? Scheduled finish by the end of 2023, likely finish mid 2024. I don't know. I can't say it. Scheduled to finish by the end of 2020.
Maybe we have another wave of COVID that causes delay.
You can still come and see a building site. It's not a problem. There are actually 3 buildings, Niels. There's a new farm. It's called Milnfield Farm. There's a field centre, which will be where we do all of our field work and all of our quality analysis and grain analysis and so on and so forth. And then there will be the main research building, which comprises 2 floors, upstairs and downstairs labs, a lecture theatre, a canteen and facilities for having dinner and things like that. And then at the back of that, there's a dedicated facility for automated phenotyping and controlled growth rooms with a computer, a computer farm and a freezer farm. So it's where we grow stuff.
If the building is not complete, the meeting can still go forward. It's just, it would be nice to see the facility.
There was never any plans to have the meeting at the Hutton site because the building will only hold 130 people. So the University of Dundee is a fairly common venue for fairly large conferences. And alongside, we have a dedicated, it's called the Dundee and Angus Conference Bureau. They take a big role in organising conference and making sure everything's managed well, a bit like what you have here, I believe.
Has IOC been considering how often these meetings should be? I mean, we're talking already 2024, which is just 2 years away, so maybe we have a chance to get 2 meetings scheduled now. Should I be doing 2024, 2026, or should it be 2024, 2027?
So yeah, the committee has talked about that. There were reasons for having the meeting in 2 years or roughly 2 years, simply because there was a longer gap between the last meeting. We were concerned that the attendance might not be as great. There were people who couldn't make it to this meeting, so having a meeting sooner might be another reason why we would do that. So that was part of the discussion. Also, planning 4 years ahead is, as we know, you can't always plan 4 years ahead very accurately. So there were a number of reasons why we considered, 2024. And I don't know that we've talked about like scheduling maybe every 2 years or something like that, but that's something we could certainly talk about. If people have a thought about that, we could entertain that now.
Just having it every 4th year, I think it's too seldom. Now when the ITMIN meeting are no more. So therefore I think something should be more often.
Yeah. That's kind of what occurred to me when we had the discussion the other evening about building community and better communication and bringing people together. I mean, it's great to create new things like the seminar series and other things, but we have something already that works really well. And so maybe part of the solution is just to increase the frequency of this event as a possibility. So I think that is a possibility.
The seminar series is not an alternative, it's an addition.
Yes, absolutely.
Field trials has always been a key part of these meetings. So when would you have the meeting and when will the competitor?
Well, I can comment for us. So we would propose to have the meeting around the same time of year, this time. It's when the spring barley ripens in Scotland, this week actually. Some of our colleagues can't come because we run an event called Arable Scotland. So we have around 2,000 field plots out in the surrounding areas around their institute. And we have, it's just a one-day event, but all of the plots are prepared for it, and it's for the local farming and other end-use communities. So we would do something similar, I would imagine.
Yeah.
In fact, what I didn't appreciate happened here is that you invited donations entries, if you like, from people from all over the world to put field plots on. And I think that's a good idea to do. It'd be interesting to see how some genotypes from, I don't know where, from North America or from Australia fared in Scottish fields.
You get to see a lot of G by E.
You will get to see G by E, and our land's not flat. So, unlike all of the things you've seen with field plots for the last 3 days, they wouldn't be the same kind of field plots you would see in Scotland. They are more up and down. So yeah, field trials would be part of it.
And then Daniel, when would what time of the year would it work in?
October, November. October, November, because this is the flowering time.
Yep.
And it's very nice climate during that time, and you can see different genotype from different origins crossing the national net of barley, which is in Bahia, intact on this there in Bordenave, which is close to Bahia, and also close to Mar del Plata, there are another location. We have 21 locations, we can choose some of these close to there, or prepare specifically some field day with another cultivars in concordance with the private companies, additionally to the national nets. We organized the International Wheat Conference in 2005 with assist 600 people there, not too much, but it's interesting. And the place was Mar del Plata, and Dwayne was there in that conference, and Norman Burlock was present in that moment. And Mar del Plata is prepared by Bahia Blanca also, but there are previous antecedents that of organizers that were successful there in Argentina.
Thanks. Actually, just to make a contribution from this side of the aisle, I would like to ask you, how easy do you think in your countries it is to get visas, especially for people coming from Africa, maybe from Asia?
I have no idea, to be honest. You could come by boat. It's quite easy if you come by boat. Sorry, that was a bit flippant, but I honestly don't know. I mean, I've never done it. We have lots of foreign students, and most of them get visas. In fact, all of them get visas to come. But what a visa would be like for a 3-day visit or a week visit, I have no idea, to be honest.
These guys are going to arm wrestle in just a minute, so we'll see.
I really don't know. So, but there are some problems sometimes with some people from Iran. I know that it's more difficult to get the visa to go to Argentina, but this is the only case that I know there are some problems because we had some conflict in the past with Iranian people there. But this is the only point that I remember that you have some problem with the visa. With the rest, you don't need, with the rest of the Europe, you don't need visa to go to Argentina.
I just want to say that our conference is international and it has been, I think, 5 times in Europe, and it has never been in South America. So I would say that we should move from one continent to other continent. We had in Africa, we had in Asia, but we never had in South Africa. So it would be good opportunity to go to South Africa.
Well, I think we have really two fantastic options. So, and like I said, we're not going to decide tonight, but I know that the committee will probably have a difficult challenge to try to figure this out. So just to sort of get a straw vote and get a sense of where people are at, I will ask you to raise your hand for each of the two sites if you favor that site. And you guys can turn around so you don't see the results. And again, this is not a binding vote. This is just to give the committee a sense of the, yeah, you have a question or?
Just a comment. Don't know if it helps or not.
Okay.
I'm not completely sure what I'm going to say is true. You can tell me. But I only see Daniel, who was invited here, and Ariel from South America. Euclides, but I wouldn't count him. He's in the International Organization Committee. And I think that economically, for researchers in South America, it's extremely difficult to come to Europe because they have very low budget for research. So it's very difficult. I don't think that they don't come here because they don't appreciate the value of meeting or the value they can see in this meeting. It's just they cannot afford it. Even if it is done in Argentina, chances are that many Argentinian barley researchers may not be able to afford to pay the registration, even if they don't have to travel. But, I get the impression, perhaps I'm wrong, that most of us would probably go to Australia or Argentina or China if it is organized there. Because, I live in Spain, I love Scotland, so I love Scotland to win. So I have one good excuse to go to Scotland again. And it would cost me probably 400 euros to go to Scotland. The rest would be the same anyway. And it would cost me 1,400 euros to go to Argentina.
I think you can get a Ryanair return for about £87. So
no, but I don't think it will stop me having to spend one more 1,000 euros to go to a meeting that I appreciate to be there. Mm-hmm. And I think that what happened to me happens to most people in Europe, and probably in the States and in Canada or Australia. While the other way around, it's more difficult. So I don't know. I don't want to say this, and then you go to Argentina, and there is no one from South America there. I have no idea. But it's just speculation that it may favor enlarging a little bit the consortium, people meeting. This meeting, if we put the meeting closer to them, maybe there, or maybe Malaysia or Ethiopia.
There was a comment back there.
Thank you, Gustavo, for raising this. Actually, I think if we want to have wider participation, what we need is also some scholarships and grants to support people. Because I remember, discussing this with the committee during the last months, for example, for students, for younger people. So I would argue that that should be something to present to sponsors, that some of their contribution could go towards, favoring participation of younger people, regardless of what they count. It's not just South America; it's also Africa. It's also, we heard about the Chinese colleagues maybe didn't come for various reasons because traveling is complicated with COVID. But I think this is a bottleneck that should be addressed by sponsorship. Thank you.
I think that's a great point, and that's something that we've discussed on the IOC as well, is about being more proactive about being creative about sources of funding, whether it's writing a grant proposal. There are different places you can write proposals to fund, I know for sure, student support of meetings and things like that. And I think if we're all creative and look for it, there are probably other opportunities as well. And I think what would really help is to start early, because when you go looking for sponsors, they have a pretty long lead time that they're thinking about in terms of their budgets and their funding. So, but I agree, there are some opportunities to try to defer some of those costs. Yeah, I did put the list of all of the committee members on the, so, you know, if you want to coerce them somehow, you know.
I don't know if this is a useful question, but if we would go for 2024 and 2026, would both bids be valid for both time points?
It's like an interview question. Yes.
I agree with Laura that it's very important to ensure that some sponsors that put money in the case that the registration is not enough to cover the cost. This is my work during the last 3 weeks. I talked with Kevin, with juries that send some of the costs. It's very difficult to prevent or to speculate what happened in Argentina in the next 2 months. Now it's I don't know if you delay from 2024 to 2026. I will try to convince again the people that it's important to organize the conference there, but I really don't know. Yeah. I have the compromise of some sponsors to put money for the 2024, but you know, the Minister of Economy resigned yesterday in Argentina. It's very difficult to see what happened.
Our Chancellor resigned this morning.
Well, I think we'll go ahead and do a straw vote. Remember, it's not a binding vote, but it just gives the committee a feeling of where people are at. So we'll just do it in the same order of the presentation. So first of all, raise your hand if you would be in support of the next symposium being in Argentina. Raise your hand. And I'm not going to count. I'm just going to get a rough. Okay. And then how about Scotland? Well, that didn't make it any easier. So yes, by my eye, that was pretty close. Okay, so Kaz sent this by email just, I think, yesterday or the day before. It's the third Barley Mutant Workshop. It's going to be held in 2023 in October. I don't think they have a final date yet, but he wanted to let everybody know that that was where the planning was at, so you can keep that in mind as you're filling up your calendars. Is there anything else to say about that, Matt?
They don't know the exact date.
Yeah, they don't know the exact dates yet, but they're working on that. So that's one announcement. Does anybody have any other sort of announcements that they want to make to the group since we have everybody here? And we're still awake? All right, I don't see any. The one last thing I do want to do is recognize somebody who's done an amazing job, I think, for this symposium. I don't think I've ever been to a conference with a moderator that is so dedicated. All right, well, with that, I officially close the meeting, and we'll see you all in the morning at...
Yeah, at what time? Before 8, yes. Okay, see you tomorrow. Thank you. Have a good evening.